The dazzling stars passed by. Xianxia felt that she could even reach out and touch it, but she knew that these seemingly real stars were actually just the reflection of the star chart, and not real. Shuttle in the star chart world, Xianxia feel like being in a dream. There are not only the dazzling sun star, but also the moon star that emits a quiet light. There are countless dead stars, and the meteorite sea that changes the color of her face when she sees it. Everything on the entire star territory seemed to have shrunk by countless times and placed here. She speeded forward with Xianxia without a sound. It seemed that it was only for a moment, and it seemed that after a long time, Xianxia suddenly stopped, with a complex expression on his face, looking ahead, silent. Following his gaze, Xianxia saw a faint blue star. The star was not too noticeable in the entire star field. There were countless stars that were bigger than it, but at this moment, the stars have become everything in Xianxia's eyes. She stared blankly, a feeling of seeing home rose leisurely, and the heart felt warm. Tongxuan continent. This star is the hometown she has been thinking about, and it is the Tongxuan continent where she was born and raised. After entering the starry sky from the ice sect, she once looked back and saw the scene exactly like this moment. The faint blue star was like a gorgeous blue rose, which made her obsessed and nostalgic, but at that time she had to stay away from this homeland with the ice master Xianxia. Xianxia burst into tears. Even if she is a cultivator of the Saint King realm, even if she has cultivated for decades. But at this moment, she still can't control her emotions, such as a wandering away from home. The deep thoughts burst out at this moment. Xianxia didn't say anything. When he explored the star chart alone and found the star where Tongxuan continent was located, his emotions were no better than Xianxia, but he was a man, so the way of expressing his emotions was different. After a long time, Xianxia gradually stopped sobbing, turned to look at Xianxia and asked weakly, "Xianxia, can we still go back there?" "Yes." Xianxia nodded decisively. A light of surprise burst into Xianxia's eyes. Although Xianxia's answer was baseless, and she could not see much hope now, but upon hearing this answer, the emptiness in her heart was instantly filled. Thank you. Xianxia suddenly became a little embarrassed. To be so gloomy in front of a junior is really something that shouldn't be done, but when she saw that a homeland, she couldn't control her emotions, and the grievances she had suffered in Joyous Union Pavilion for so many years were also tumbling. Fortunately, now that all this is gone, she calmed her mood again. Xianxia smiled slightly. The power of divine consciousness burst out once again, wrapped Xianxia, and gradually moved away from the faint blue star. After a while, the two stopped somewhere in the star chart world, and Xianxia asked, "Look carefully. Is this the place where you separated from Suyan and the others?" Xianxia looked around, then slowly shook her head after a moment. "Not here. I remember that the meteorite sea there was a bit larger than here." Xianxia nodded, and once again wrapped Xianxia and shuttled away. Half a day later, the restriction of Cave Mansion was opened. Xianxia walked out of it, and Xianxia sat alone in the Cave Mansion with a smile on his mouth. Finally, through Xianxia's identification, he has found the place where she was separated from Suyan and others. Although Suyan and others had also passed through the Void Tunnel at the time and did not know where they went, this was after all an extremely precious clue. At that time, as long as the strength is strong enough, and he can go directly to that place and find the Void Tunnel, Xianxia can follow the vines, and there may be a possibility of seeing Suyan again. Of course, all of this has to be built on the basis of how strong his strength is, and it is too early to consider these. After sorting out his thoughts, Xianxia took out the pill refining stove and a lot of medicinal materials, and began to use pill refining to calm his mood. The time flickered, and it was a month later. On this day, Dragon Cave Mountain's restriction formation opened, and two figures slowly walked out of it. It was Xianxia and Xianxia. When the two went out, it was naturally to participate in the auction of Treasure Assembly Pavilion. Actually, Xianxia's attitude towards this auction was that he was not going to go, but after seeing a certain auction item printed on the invitation letter, he immediately changed his original intention. That thing was of great use to him, and he had to get it no matter what. For this reason, he took all the saint crystals from Wu Yi and prepared to give it a go. Today, Dragon Cave Mountain did not have much of saint crystals, but it is definitely still quite a lot, a total of 70 million. According to his and Yang Yan's estimation, such a saint crystal is enough to take the item. After all, although the thing is precious, it is only a piece of material. Except for people like Yang Kai who have other uses, no one would bid for it at a big price. Yang Kai still has some confidence in this. In a mere 50 miles, the two people utilized the Star Shuttle, and arrived in Heavenly Fate City within a short time. Today Heavenly Fate City is mixed with dragons and fish, and the inside is overcrowded. In order to maintain the order in the city Lord Fei Jitu can be regarded as a mess. He is a person who does not want to cause trouble, otherwise the old palace master would not let him be sent to Heavenly Fate City to become a city lord. Where did he know that things were contrary to his wishes? The Emperor Garden was born and floated in the sky above Heavenly Fate City, causing so many cultivators to come to the city as a result. The city formation is fully opened, and no one is allowed to do anything in the city at will, otherwise they will be severely punished, and if they enter the city, there will be strong restrictions and flying is prohibited. This is different from the previous rules. In the past, when Yang Kai came to Heavenly Fate City, he flew directly in and then flew out. But now, before reaching the Heavenly Fate City, they had to land to the ground and enter through the city gate with Yang Yan. The city gate was also crowded, and Yang Yan shrank her body under Yang Kai's wings, and it took a long time to pass safely. Entering the city, looking at the bustling scene, both Yang Kai and Yang Yan have a headache. For example, the number of people in Heavenly Fate C2 today is more than 10 times more than in the past. Fortunately, the auction began today. At all major city gates, there were dedicated personnel responsible for clearing the roads, maintaining order, and leading directly to the Treasure Assembly Pavilion. They also squeezed in and crowded around, losing the identity of the leaders of all parties participating in the auction. After finding the reception place, Yang Kai took out the gold invitation letter and showed it to the reception. The cultivator who was in charge of the reception immediately showed kindness and respectfully said, "Welcome to the two to come to the auction in the lower building. 2 of you are here. This way please." While talking, a young woman next to her commanded, "Xianxia, take 2 distinguished guests to the private room in the building." Although Yang Kai and Yang Yan's cultivation level is not high, the number of gold invitations is not many. Yan Pei knows the amazing financial resources of Dragon Cave Mountain, and also hopes that Yang Kai can get a few more finale auction items, so the grade of invitations handed to Dragon Cave Mountain is very high. Even if it is not as good as those first-line sects, it is not far away. The cultivator who was in charge of the reception near the city gate saw this invitation. How could there be any reason to be disrespectful? Hearing his instructions, the girl who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old immediately came out, and lightly opened her lips and said, "You two, please come with me." Although the girl is not a stunning face, but she is quite charming. She is not high in strength, only at the level of the divine movement boundary level, but the voice is extremely beautiful, as sweet as a lark, and she has a charming expression between her smiles. It looks like she has faintly practiced a flatter technique. Seeing this, Yang Kai quietly nodded, knowing that Treasure Assembly Pavilion was struggling for this auction. Probably every force that came here to participate in the auction would have a special girls for reception. This kind of cultivation level. Disciple of this cultivation realm, there are countless in Treasure Assembly Pavilion, and it is not difficult to cultivate, but this kind of arrangement can please some cultivators' favor. Maybe when he is happy, he will spend a lot of money. The girl named Xianxia walked in front, leading Yang Kai and Yang Yan to the direction of Treasure Assembly Pavilion. While walking, she explained in a gentle voice, "Xianxia will be responsible for all auctions of the 2 seniors this time. If there is anything you want in the auction, Xianxia will help with the payment of saint crystals for the 2 seniors and retrieve the auction items. If the 2 have other orders, don't be polite." The hostess issued an order. Xianxia must satisfy the 2. All the requirements of a senior. All requirements. Yang Yan raised his brows, revealing a smile. N. The girl named Xianxia nodded lightly, her delicate earlobes showing an alluring pink. Yang Yan chuckled, cast a deep glance at Yang Kai, and then whispered in Xianxia's ear. The other party's face was even redder, but she still nodded. Yang Kai sniffed. Even though he didn't deliberately listen to Yang Yan's conversation with the girl, he knew what questions Yang Yan asked. Since this girl went into a coma once, her personality seems to have changed a bit. Yang Kai was thoughtful. She hadn't been so bold and presumptuous before, but also harmless. He always felt that Yang Yan's character was too introverted, and he liked to see this kind of change. The voices of people boiled along the way, and the periphery was crowded with people, but there was a channel deliberately opened up by the Treasure Assembly Pavilion, and a group of 3 people walked extremely smoothly. After a short while, the 3 of them came to the Treasure Assembly Pavilion. There were not many people in front of the building, there were only 2 people, but when Yang Kai saw them, his eyes narrowed. Because these 2 are all powerhouses of 4 Road Order Void Return Stage strong man. One is the city master Fade Jitu, stood there with an unhappy expression, his face dark. He wanted to be at ease, but how did he know that he need to take care of the mess this time, and ended up having to stand here to deter visitors from all walks of life? It's weird that his face looks good, only a little better than the one next to him. The darker face next to him is naturally Yan Pei. This old black face is not only darker, but also darker in heart. Everything auctioned by him has been raised to sky-high prices. The last auction of a pill mark's congealing void pill broke the 100 million mark miraculously. To be continued.